Today is Thursday, January 31st. We're talking about the latest impact from that extreme winter weather and when relief will arrive. Plus, the company backing out of a promise, why Apple and Facebook are in a fight, and when you can watch Black Panther in theaters for free. Then hang out after the news for Thing to Know Thursday. We're talking about virtual reality. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Record low temperatures continue to affect everyday life in the Midwest today in places like Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, and North Dakota. The U.S. Postal Service says it will not be delivering mail again in some states today. It didn't yesterday either. Some schools, universities, and businesses are staying closed as well, and a couple thousand flights were canceled. The below zero temperatures with wind chills hitting as low as minus 70 degrees have even been deadly. USA Today says at least 8 deaths are blamed on the weather so far this week. In Chicago, CNN says it's so cold the crews used gas-fed heaters that make it look like railroad tracks were on fire. It apparently helps the commuter trains run smoothly. Today, the Northeast could see single digits before the cold air leaves the U.S. But relief is on the way. By this afternoon, temperatures in the Midwest will get a little closer to zero, and by the weekend, they're expected to go above freezing, even getting into the 40s in Chicago. They are wrong and naive. That's what President Trump is saying about top U.S. intelligence officials. Remember, earlier this week, officials like the CIA and FBI directors told a Senate committee what they consider to be the biggest threats to national and global security. They pointed to North Korea, saying it will not give up nuclear weapons, and ISIS, saying it's still planning attacks, and the report said Iran's nuclear deal seems to be working. But that went against much of what President Trump has said and done, and now he has responded on Twitter. The president said Iran is still testing rockets and is dangerous, that North Korea has stopped nuclear testing, and ISIS will be destroyed soon, and that maybe intelligence officials should go back to school. The AP reports some lawmakers push back, saying it's deeply dangerous that President Trump isn't listening to U.S. intelligence. The key interest rate will stay the same for now. The Wall Street Journal reports the Federal Reserve decided not to raise rates right now and said the Fed will be patient about future rate hikes. So that key short-term interest rate will stay in a range of 2.25 to 2.5%. Remember, the higher the rate, the more expensive it is to borrow money for things like cars, home mortgages, and credit cards. The rate staying the same was welcomed news on Wall Street. Stocks went up. The AP reports now stocks are on pace for their best month since March 2016. A new TV manufacturing plant was supposed to bring 13,000 new jobs to Wisconsin, but now it seems it might not happen. Reuters reports Foxconn is changing its mind about a $10 billion factory it promised back in 2017. Now the company says it'll cost too much to complete since the global market has changed. So instead of hiring thousands of blue-collar workers, Foxconn now says it may build a technology hub and hire researchers, designers, and engineers. Critics say Foxconn has overpromised and underdelivered from the very beginning and doesn't deserve billions in tax credits. President Trump praised this project back in 2017 as part of his plan to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. But now NBC News says Trump has not commented about the change. Apple and Facebook seem to be in a fight. Why? TechCrunch found out that Facebook was paying teenagers to install an iPhone app that would give the company full access to the kids' cell phone data. Well, Apple said that is against policy and took it down. Facebook apparently gave the teens access to the app through a system that's really only meant for a company's employees. Facebook says only 5% of the people using the research app were teens, and it's fixing the issue. Google was apparently doing something similar, so it's taken its app down as well and apologized. Even with all the backlash, though, Facebook seems to be doing just fine. The company released its latest earnings, and CNBC reports it had record profits. More news still ahead, but a quick break because today's episode is brought to you by the Entreprenista podcast. On Instagram, running a business can look like a glamorous life of important business meetings and high-end events. But if you or someone you know wants the unfiltered version, then this is where to get it. Every week on the Entreprenista podcast, the co-CEOs of the social media agency Socialfly talk to an inspiring entreprenista about what it really takes to be your own boss. Hear from some top brands, including Betches, Glam Squad, New York Pilates, and more. It's available every Monday on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen, or sign up for episodes at entreprenistapodcast.com. Now, back to the news. It's like a Roomba for your lawn. You know, the little robot that cleans your house? Well, Engadget reports the same company, iRobot, has now unveiled what it calls Terra, a robotic lawn mower that uses the same mapping technology to trim your grass by itself. You do have to put wireless beacons around your grass to act like the walls, but after that, you just let Terra free. But you can't buy it just yet. iRobot says it'll be available sometime later this year. Chicago police are looking for a couple people they call persons of interest in an apparent hate crime against an actor. Jussie Smollett is best known for his role as Jamal on the Fox show Empire. Variety reports 2 men attacked him earlier this week and reportedly yelled racist and homophobic slurs and even put a rope around his neck. Police have images from surveillance video showing 2 men they want to question. Smollett went to the hospital but is reportedly doing okay. Nearly 1 year after its premiere, the award-winning superhero movie Black Panther is returning to theaters, and you can see it for free starting tomorrow. Disney says the second run of the movie is a celebration of Black History Month, which of course is in February. And Disney will also be donating money to good causes. Mashable reports there will be 2 free showings a day in hundreds of AMC theaters around the country during the first several days of February. And that's it for the main news today, but it's now time for Thing to Know Thursday, where a different expert explains a different thing to know only on Thursdays after the news. This week, we're talking about virtual reality. What's gaining traction now and what to expect in the future? My guest today is Hollywood and Silicon Valley media executive Joanna Popper. She's currently HP's global head of virtual reality for location-based entertainment. We'll talk a little more about what that means. And she's been named one of 101 women leading the VR industry. So here's my conversation with Joanna Popper. Hi, Joanna. Thanks so much for coming on The Newsworthy.
Thank you for having me.
So I first want to make sure everybody understands what location-based virtual reality is. So how do you like to describe it? And let's also talk about how available it is today.
Sure. So location-based virtual reality or location-based entertainment is anywhere that you're doing virtual reality out of home. So location-based entertainment would really be anywhere that you're leaving your home to get entertained. So think movie theaters, cruises, museums, malls, entertainment centers, even the trampoline park, bowling alleys, all of those places are location-based entertainment. And location-based entertainment has always focused on taking the latest technology and the most advanced technology and bringing consumers something that they wouldn't be able to do in their home. And so the same is true with location-based entertainment, virtual reality. Currently, the most people don't have it yet at home. And that has to do with, in some cases, price points. It has to do with general understanding of the technology and how to set it up. And so location-based VR is a mechanism to offer this great technology to people for the price of a ticket, where they can go and get first exposed to it and then make a decision about whether this is something that they want to bring into their home.
And from what I've read, there's also more to it than you can get at home, like elements that make you feel even more like you're in the game or the movie or whatever it is. Is that right? Absolutely.
So in a lot of the location-based VR examples, they're using haptics, they're using smell, they're taking things that are tricks that have been learned over the years from theme parks, in some cases even from magicians, and they're bringing that to the experience. So here's an example. So Dave & Buster's brought in to 112 of their locations last year a motion platform simulator for the experience of Jurassic World. And they built it out on a motion simulator by a company named Talon. And so what they were able to do was take a relatively small footprint and create the experience of feeling like you are in a roller coaster. And so you're in a roller coaster with four people at once, coming in, sitting down, strapping in, putting on headsets, virtual reality headsets, and having this really, really fun experience of interacting with dinosaurs, which who wouldn't want to do that, right? And so in this relatively small footprint. And for the cost that relative to what it would have cost to build a whole roller coaster in 112 locations, they were able to achieve great results and a really, really fun customer experience because they use the technology of virtual reality to take you away from the physical location of being in a Dave & Buster's and transport you into the Jurassic World.
So what are a couple of the top reasons that you're doing location-based instead of offering a headset to buy at home? I know that you mentioned people maybe need to experience this first, and I also have seen reports that millennials enjoy experiences over stuff. So is that part of it? What are your main reasons?
Absolutely. If consumers want to buy them at home, we have them available for consumers to buy as well. Virtual reality is something that's very hard to explain to people. And so unless you're actually in the experience, it's not like, it's hard to just do a radio ad or do a Facebook ad or do a billboard or even a TV ad and have somebody really understand what the experience is like. And so a lot of companies started looking to location-based entertainment plays to have it be more available to consumers to get them excited about it.
All right. So what do you expect for the future of VR and location-based entertainment?
Well, it's a really exciting future. As I mentioned earlier, we're in the toddler stage and it's moving so fast. And at the same time, sometimes we wish it was moving faster, but it's moving really, really fast. We will move from being in this mobile phase of computing that we're in right now to being in an immersive or virtual or spatial computing phase where, we're using some sort of smart glasses that are able to do virtual reality, augmented reality, and do everything that our mobile phones do for us, plus much, much more. Before we had our smartphones, we wouldn't have known that we were going to get our groceries and get our transportation and get our directions and interact with our friends and maybe find dates all from our phones. And so imagine all the things that are yet to be discovered, that when we move completely into this immersive computing phase, that these devices are going to help us with and problems they're going to solve.
So many opportunities and benefits that you were just talking about. Are there ever concerns people may want to live in a virtual reality world and not come out?
Well, I don't know if you saw Ready Player One. I think in that view of the world, it was more that the world was dystopian and that's why people didn't leave, right? So I hope that we don't take ourselves down to a dystopian path where we're going to, have to stay in this virtual world because the outside world is too dangerous or too, the environment not environmentally friendly, or there's no jobs for us. Hopefully that's just a Hollywood view and not the view that we're going to head into. But I think we really have to look at the benefits. Here's an example. So I focus on the location-based entertainment side, but as a company, HP has 5 different sectors that we focus on around virtual reality. And the other ones are training, which is, first responder, enterprise training, and even military training to make sure that, any soldiers we're sending out come home safely. We focus on healthcare, we focus on higher ed, and we focus on architecture, engineering, and construction. And so in the higher ed sector, here's an example that I like to give. So today there's a tomb in Egypt. It's incredibly famous. But if you and I got on a plane and flew to Egypt and drove to the tomb, we wouldn't be allowed in, right? Because it's too fragile. In virtual reality, there are professors giving classes inside that tomb. So they are going in with their anthropology class and showing the students every bit of that tomb. And the students have this feeling of being inside the tomb when in reality, they're in their class and they are in a virtual reality headset. So that opens up a couple of things. One, it allows people to learn about experiences in a much deeper way. And there's a lot of data that's used both for education and training around the retention you have from when you hear a lecture, from when you see a video, and from when you do an experience in virtual reality. And the numbers are shocking. It's something like the retention for virtual reality is 75%. And then from reading or seeing, it's low numbers like 5, 9, 10, 15%. So shocking difference. In addition to the fact that the retention is going to be so much higher for when you're trained this way, it also opens up opportunities for people to experience things that they can't experience otherwise. So the tomb in Egypt, space, people in schools that aren't able to travel, they can now go into virtual reality and have that experience. So there will be a time, and particularly, when the costs tend to start to go down more and more, that I believe that this will democratize access. So HP is about inventing and reinventing technology and the future. And we see VR and immersive computing as the next wave in computing. So for us, it's really, really important that we're very integral in building what that next wave will be.
And as always, you can read more about today's guest in today's show notes. That's also where you'll find links to all the stories we talked about in this episode. Go to thenewsworthy.com, click episodes, and find today's date. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, The Newsworthy is ready for you by 4 a.m. Eastern Time every weekday. We'll chat again tomorrow. Have a great day.